From ELWA, January 4th, 1990. The Liberian President's news conference says situation is returning to normal. President Samuel Canyon Doe has disclosed that the situation in Nimba County is rapidly returning to normal as security forces continue mopping out the last vestiges of dissidents who entered the country on the 24th of December last year. Dr. Doe made the statement today at the Executive Mansion, where he addressed a news conference to provide a true picture of what is taking place in Nimba County. He, however, lamented the numerous hardships residents of the area were experiencing as a result of the 24th December armed dissident invasion from neighboring Ivory Coast. President Doe. The dissidents completely destroyed the towns of Butuo and Konple, killing several innocent citizens who have refused to join them or provide them food. You will recall that in a recent BBC interview, Charles Taylor, who claimed to be the leader of the dissident group, attempted to mislead the world by saying that his rebels have killed 250 Liberian soldiers. This information is completely erroneous and has no other intention but to deceive the international community. As I indicated in my broadcast on 30th of December, only one of our security personnel in the person of Staff Sergeant Joliba McCarthy was killed. Perhaps the large number of individuals supposedly killed by the Charles Taylor group must have been those innocent and defenseless citizens. As you may recall, Charles Taylor in that interview indicated that the area where the rebel forces attacked was littered with dead bodies. I wish to further inform you that the situation in Nimba County at present is rapidly returning to normal, as our security forces are continuing their efforts to mop out the remaining dissidents who fled the initial scene of the attack and are taking refuge in nearby forest areas. We seize this opportunity to once again assure our citizens and foreign residents that the situation is under control, and the security forces have been directed to ensure that peaceful citizens are not molested. Thank you very much. The President's statement was immediately followed by a question and answer period, during which journalists posed several questions to him on the dissident invasion, among other issues. From a reporter, you have just informed the citizens of Liberia that the information given to Charles Taylor on BBC is untrue, that 250 Liberia soldiers were killed. But BBC News reports monitored in Monrovia this morning indicated that renewed fighting is still going on in Nimba County, and that in the fighting, 8 Liberian soldiers were killed, and in fact that the rebel forces are pushing towards Sanakwele. President Doe's answer. First of all, I live here. I am a citizen of Liberia. BBC is not a citizen of Liberia, and they can only report what is sent to them. And I don't want you to, as a true journalist, as a true patriot of this country, to take instructions from the BBC. I am telling you what is going on in Nimba County. If BBC thinks the fighting is still going on, they can come here and go there. A reporter. Have you received any report from your field commander that the Liberians are crossing over to Ivory Coast seeking refuge, who in fact were interviewed by BBC? President Doe. Well, this is not to my attention. As I stated in my statement, the situation occurred on the 24th of December, and from the 24th up to the New Year, Christmas and the New Year, before our troops moved in. By that time they had captured Butuo, and what the people do when they reach any town is they ask for the NDPL, supporters, or when you are searched and you find that you get an NDPL card, they kill you. And so the residents of the villages decided to escape for their lives. So maybe it could be one of those who happened to cross on the other side. Reporter. Mr. President, do you agree with many persons who say that the checkpoints are not well inspected and that people and the rebels entered the county through the checkpoints and other things? No, I don't agree with them. Because if the people coming here, remember that we are members of the Mono River Union, we are members of ECOWAS, and we put our hands on the ECOWAS documents, which says that people should have access to free movement. And if somebody is coming into the country, dressed in uniform, the security guard had the right to question them. But if he is like you, he decides to go through Nimba County and go to Ivory Coast, will the people stop you? They don't see anything. You've got no weapon. Will they see you as a rebel? As a matter of fact, we have over 22 checkpoints between the Ivorian and Liberian border. 22 checkpoints. But the people can cross, so this is the situation. A reporter asks, Apparently, it looks as if Ivory Coast has been directly indicted for, at least, allowing the dissidents to cross from their border to Liberia. And I understand that this is not the first time. I do not know whether this is correct. I would like it to be confirmed, and if it's true, my own information says that. About what steps will the government now take on a permanent basis to make sure that that does not happen again? President Doe. As you know, in international affairs, no country wants to be the aggressor, and so we always dialogue. We will always send in a diplomat to negotiate. To answer your question, some say to this question, we continue to have this kind of problem with Côte d'Ivoire with these dissidents, and each time this thing occurs, I send a high delegation to Abidjan to see President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, and he assured me that nobody will use his territory to work against me. And this has happened more than 5-6 occasions. I have sent to all my colleagues to intervene. According to reports, Toe King, who is causer of these activities, is in Abidjan. Chatila is in Abidjan, and these people come here, innocent people are killed, and I cannot continue to allow this kind of thing to happen. When they are in a peaceful country, they want us to be. Words indistinct. Toe and Chatila can't do nothing to me, but the innocent people, the 1,000 children or hundreds of people they kill in Nimba. We are trying to promote the revolution, self-sufficiency in food production, and people are passing through the Ivory Coast to come here and cause chaos. And so this has been a topic that we have been discussing since 1989. I mean 1980. And so we have informed those that are supposed to be informed to see what they can do. As I said earlier, Liberia is not an aggressive country to attack other countries. We allow people to pass through and out. We are not saying it is wrong for Ivory Coast to keep opposition in the Ivory Coast. Once they are there, we have nothing to do with them. But once they decide to use other lands as springboards to come in and kill people, then of course we have every reason to feel that the government is in support of what those people are doing. And so we have alerted the international community to see what they can do, so that when this kind of thing happens next time, we cannot be accused of being aggressive. And I want to repeat that we have forces here who know how to cross borders, but we don't want to encroach on anybody's territory. If you heard President Bush the other day before they invaded Panama, he said that they tried to negotiate. They have been using all the peaceful means, and the end result was to invade Panama. And so from 1980 up to now, we are still trying to appeal to President Houphouët-Boigny to keep his eyes on these dissidents so that they don't come here to cause confusion. We do not want to cross into anybody's territory, but mind you, the army of this country is not a 1939 or 1950 or 1940 army. We are talking about the armies of the 80s, 90s, and we know how to cross borders. But I repeat that Liberia will not be immediately to be fighting on ground, will not be the fighting ground. We can fight elsewhere. Against the disclosure of President Doe that several innocent Liberian citizens were killed by the Charles Taylor's invaders in Nimba County, the question that comes to one's mind is why did the Liberian government not immediately dispatch security forces in the area to arrest the situation? Well, here is what President Doe had to say. The reason why we delayed in sending people out there is that in the military, you can't just send people to go and fight when they don't know what they are going to fight for, or what they are fighting for or against. The Army sends people to investigate to find out how the terrain is looking, how the ground, the situation there. They have got to study it, the same way you put news on the radio. You have to edit it. Before they attack, they've got to find out the kind of weapon. They have got to know what kind of weapon they are using, the clothes they wear, their motivations. All these things got to be studied by the Army before they can move. How many men are required? I do not want to send troops out there to spoil the people's Christmas or their holiday. Even though we have people or camp in Banga, we have troops in Ganta. They could have moved right in there, but they cannot move without orders. One other thing that seems to have raised many eyebrows during the president's briefing today was when he discussed that the government troops dispatched to Nimba have arrested a car used by the dissidents with license plate Senate 47. Doe answered, "Our troops down there arrested one car that was used by the rebels, license plate Senate 47. So how come for a Senate car to be in the hands of the rebels? We are going to investigate." Speaking further, Dr. Doe said the dusk to dawn curfew imposed this week in Nimba County will be lifted as soon as the situation in the country returns to normal.